roster expansion, baby. It is September baseball for the Marlins. We're going to dig into the roster moves that they have made and also look ahead to a fun weekend series in Atlanta on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. It's the Friday episode, guys, and thank you for joining me. I, of course, am your host, Peter Pratt, and follow me on Twitter, of course, at Miami Marlins _UK. Don't forget the underscore. There is a Miami Marlins UK without the underscore. Make sure you get the right one. If you are watching, hello. You will see us. Welcome to my living room, and you will see I have a guest. Firstly, before we get into it, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are watching. If you are listening, reminder, guys, this is a daily pod, Monday to Friday, 5 episodes a week minimum. Hit subscribe. Make sure you get all the content straight to your device. Anyway, let's get on with the show. I did say yesterday, after a stunning episode with Jeremy Taché, I said, hey, it's probably going to be a solo pod. I'll wrap things up on Friday. Then the news broke of the roster expansion, and that meant I had to get there was only one guest fit for purpose for this episode. Noah Berger joins me. Noah, how are we doing, brother?
I am doing great. Team, on the other hand, not doing as great, but it's still fun to watch baseball. So
good. When you said that you were feeling great, I wasn't totally convinced, if I'm completely honest. But what should make you feel great was the roster moves. We got the news yesterday. The Marlins had an off day, so they weren't actually playing. But the September rosters, just 2 spots opened up. And the main headline, we were all thinking about it. Who's it going to be? Could it be Avi Garcia back? Could it be Jesus Sanchez? Could it be Jordan Groshans? No. One of the guys, the hitter added anyway. Bryan De La Cruz, the biggest Bryan De La Cruz stan in the mix. How you feeling about your boy being back in town?
I'm excited. I'm nervous. He was not playing up to the expectations I put on him at the beginning of the season.
They were MVP level, to be fair.
I had predicted him to hit 30 home runs, and I keep hearing. And if you ask Jordan McPherson, he reminds me about it every single time I talk about him. And whenever he hits a home run in AAA, while I'm around Jordan, I'll just nudge up to Jordan and be like, "Hey, guess what? He's like, what? Did De La Cruz hit another home run in AAA?" I'm like, "Yes, he did." And he's like, "Is that any closer to 30?" I'm like, "Listen, I didn't specify whether it was at AAA or the major leagues. It's still 30 overall."
No. Did you say a season, by the way, or a year, or did you just say in totality?
Ooh, I like the way you think.
Mm-hmm. It's just an ongoing counter.
Yeah, it's just an ongoing counter until he gets to 30. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like he did need that stint at AAA, just like Trevor Rogers did.
Yeah, no doubt.
Trevor Rogers needed it more than anybody on the team, and it looks like it worked.
Agreed.
And by the way, when he came back to the clubhouse and we talked to him when he came back, he's an absolutely different person than he was right before he went down.
Really? So in what way? Good. In what way?
He looked lost before he left, before he went down. He looked like he was just going through it mentally. And like, you can ask any player, they'll tell you the mental aspect of the game is much tougher than any physical aspect of the game could be.
Yeah.
The grind of a season, and it's a grind. Even just doing it as media, it's a grind.
As a fan, it's a grind. I can testify.
You're telling me. It's a grind, and it can weigh on you when you're not doing well, or as expected, or even as you expected. So for someone to go down to the minor leagues, get hit around a little bit, but then find himself again, and come back and play as Trevor Rogers did this week.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to see that same kind of thing from a guy like Bryan De La Cruz. And maybe at some point, Jesus Sanchez could come back and be like that. Avi Garcia maybe can find his swing again, or find the ball that's coming towards him when he's at the plate instead of swinging at the thin air.
It's interesting that, Avi has been rehabbing for the past 5-6 days, I think he's played, which feels elongated. It's interesting that Avi wasn't then recalled or taken off the IL and added to the roster, and they've gone down the De La Cruz path. I think that was quite interesting.
So my personal opinion on the thing is they're giving Avi as much time as he needs. They're not rushing him back. The season is over.
Yep.
There's not really much to play for this year, if any. There's nothing to play for. This is an audition for next year. They want to see what they have. Avi Garcia, if he hits or if he doesn't hit, that's only going to be seen once next season starts.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing he does in September here at the major league level is going to affect his roster spot next year. He's on the roster next year, and there's not really much that's going to change that.
Yep.
What can change is where Bryan De La Cruz is going to start the season next year, where Jeff Brigham is going to start the season next year, where Jordan Groshans is going to start the season next year. And with John Berti looking as uncomfortable as he did coming off the field this week, and with Miguel Rojas dealing with a wrist injury, which is concerning because he's been dealing with it for over a month. Apparently, it happened back in the Texas game, which was the first game after the All-Star break. And I do remember a play where he was shaking out his wrist afterward.
Yeah.
The fact that he's been dealing with that wrist injury since then is concerning.
Mm-hmm.
He is one that will play through anything if the doctors allow him, which is one of the reasons I love him. And his defense has been otherworldly awesome. And there's not really much that can be said other than he is an amazing defender, and we don't want him hurt. But with those two middle infield injuries, you could see Jordan Groshans be coming up within the next few days.
Yeah, I
no
agree.
idea. With Garrett Cooper struggling as he is, and he's got a one-way ticket right now on the struggle bus. And I hope he pulls out of it, but it's not looking like it right now. The biggest concerning thing is that he's check swinging a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's in the head then, right?
When you see a guy check swinging, that means they're not even sure. They're not sure where the ball is. They're trying to just get the bat out there and then realizing I have no idea where it is, so I'm going to try and pull back. When you see a guy check swinging a lot like that, they're kind of lost at the plate, and that's concerning for a guy that was hitting like there was no tomorrow in the beginning of the season, and for us to be at the point where earlier this month, Don Mattingly compared him to 2017 after the All-Star break, Marcell Ozuna, and any fan that was around back then will remember that Marcell Ozuna went to the All-Star break, went to the All-Star game, came back, and forgot how to hit. That's concerning.
It is. Agreed. There's
concerns.
There's definitely been a significant drop off on Garrett Cooper, it's fair to say, since he was announced, not just when he went to the game. It was basically as soon as they said, Coop, you're in, he did a podcast with Jeremy Taché, and since then, can't hit. I blame Jeremy Taché. Hope he's listening. Hope you're doing well, Jeremy. Good to speak to you yesterday.
Just a shout out to Jeremy Taché. He's twice in the past few weeks given me a ride home from the ballpark because I'm on his way home and I didn't have a car those days. Just to shout out to one of the most amazing people I've ever met, Jeremy Taché. Thank you so much.
I think that's a fair shout out for sure. So, Bryan De La Cruz circling back, the biggest stand there is. The question I've got for you is, those two injuries you mentioned there, Miggy's wrist, Berti's hip, I'm interested to see how things play out. But for De La Cruz being back up, it's very interesting, I think, because this outfield is already crowded because not only have they got Burdick and Blade that kind of came up a month back now, slightly over a month. So those guys are up. They're trying to give playing time to those dudes. Plus, you've got Brian Anderson that's then had to flex to right field. So he's playing in right field as well. Plus those guys, Luke Williams is kind of cycling and getting some at-bats in the outfield as well. Heyrar and Encarnacion obviously is playing in the outfield and in the main too, plus a bit of DHing. So it's quite crowded. I'm not sure how they're going to get much playing time for De La Cruz.
There are log jams everywhere.
Exactly. Log jams everywhere, but no one's hitting. That's the problem. It's like no one's really taking ownership of any position, it feels, or making it their own. I have liked what I've seen from Blade, and actually Encarnacion feels to me like he's delivered the big hits at the big times more than anyone since he's been up. His opportunities have been slightly limited, but I'm interested what they do with De La Cruz, how they get some at-bats. The thoughts I've got are Luke Williams maybe goes and starts to play and cover some middle infield depth. The other thing is, do they maybe start to give Heyrar and Encarnacion a bit of a look at first base? He's been taking some reps there. That could be another interesting wrinkle where they go, actually, we'll bring De La Cruz up, some more outfield depth there. We don't want to overplay BA because we know what BA is anyway. Maybe, and then they think, okay, we'll get some more at-bats for Heyrar at first base. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
I 100% think that Heyrar is going to be getting reps at first base in games. He's going to start some games at first base. He's going to be in that rotation of Lewin and Cooper. And I'm interested to see how he plays. They already, I think, I forget which game it was, but Lewin was pinch run for in the 6th inning. And so the first baseman for the rest of the game was Charles LeBlanc.
Yeah.
And so they've wanted to see what he looks like at first base. And there's a lot of mixing and matching going on. And it's chaotic. It's fun to watch and also really, really headache inducing.
Trying to work out where everyone's gone and who's in what position.
Especially when all of a sudden every position is changed and you're in the press box and you're looking at your scorecard and you're like, huh? And then all of a sudden you've lost your DH now. Oh, great. I'm going to have to use half my scorecard for pitcher slots now. And it's kind of fun. It's like you see stuff you've never seen before, but you hope it's for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Like, then pinch running for Lewin with Luke Williams in that situation. Did I like the move at the time? Sure, push across a run. I like it, but you have to push across the run. There's a lot of playing results there, and also you lose your best defender at first base. But again, it's reps. You're getting LeBlanc reps at first base, and so that I would personally file under. That's for good reasons. A game like where you have to pull Berti in that situation because he's hurt, and like right before the game, you have to put Berti in because Miggy is going down with the injury, so you have to scratch him. That's the wrong reasons. That you don't want to have to be giving guys rep because guys are getting hurt. You don't want guys getting hurt.
No, for sure.
And just be able to see it's the next man up mentality is something that's spoken about for a lot of different teams, mostly when the teams are going well. But is still a factor of that. Like there's still a guy to play a position. It's not like you're empty at a position. You still have guys there to play it. They might not be Gold Glove at that position. They might not be hitting the ball all over the place, but they're still there and they're ready to play. And everyone's bought in. There's no one that's checked out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason to be checked out. There's so much on the line. There's so much on the line for these guys. Not wins and losses. The season's cooked, but fundamentally, pretty much every dude on this roster right now is playing for a spot next year in some sort of way, in my opinion. Like, apart from Avi Garcia, perhaps, who is guaranteed.
If you take out the wins and losses and just watch the way the team plays, I struggle to find any moment where like they're not playing competitive baseball, except for the first game against the Rays. This week, the first one where there were a bunch of misplays and they came out flat and they acknowledged it. But all these games where they lead the league and they're not, I don't think they lead the league, but they're like in the top few teams in 1-run ball games.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen if you're not playing competitive baseball.
Yeah, exactly. It's competitive because the pitching's good, though. The pitching's keeping them in the games, though, right? That's the point.
Of course.
And it's to that point, it's if the offense was middle of the road, like where would this team be? That's the point.
So,
it's like it's yin and yang.
A couple of days ago, I was talking with Glenn Geffner and Kyle and JP in the booth before a game. I love visiting the radio booth before the game because the conversations we have in there are the best. But I asked if we took the pitching staff from this season and the lineup from 2017, where would this team be? And the answers were all over. My answer was, this team's in the playoffs. The others' answers were, they couldn't really tell you because that's just, it's hard to combine a pitching staff and a lineup that's not from the same season.
Yeah.
And they're not from the same team. But like, imagine what it would be like if the run production from that 2017 lineup would combine with the pitching of this season. Just dream about that for a minute.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of the Marlins had a lot of studs back then. I mean, you know, Stanton, Yelich, Ozuna, Realmuto, just those four alone. Plug them in, whoever's around them, plug them into this lineup. I mean, Bohr, okay, and you know he was fine. Not.
Imagine if we had a player like Justin Bohr that wasn't the top guy. Right now, a player on the level of Justin Bohr would be our top guy.
Exactly. I mean, that's a fair point. It is. It's hard. It's really hard, and I understand where the guys are coming from. But I'm with you. You know, the offensively, there was a lot of studs knocking around there in that 2017 Marlins team. And we shouldn't forget as well, like D. Gordon in the leadoff spot, that moment in time was great in the leadoff spot too. So D. Gordon leading off, then the big four, bang, 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 bang. And then, you know, you maybe got a couple of, you know, Miggy at shortstop. It's fine. You got, you know, Miggy at shortstop hitting ninth. No problem. You can carry the glove. The problem is Miggy's hitting in the 2-hole most of this year. And the production in the 2 spot is, you know, you just look around the league to the big teams now. What they're getting out of that spot, it's worlds different from that. And so the Marlins can't carry that and be serious in terms of their aspirations. Miggy's fine if he's hitting ninth, no problem with that. Gold Glove shortstop, no problem. In the 2-hole, day after day, it's not sustainable for this offense, and that's the problem. You've got square pegs, round holes, and not enough talent fundamentally, which is disappointing for us fans. Let's get the ad done, and then we got a few more topics to get into. I think one question I've got for you, and I'll let you dwell on this before I get into the ad, is of all the guys that we're watching now, let's assume that this roster in the main offensively is run back. They run it back in the main. Maybe they make 1 or 2 additions, but of the guys that are now that maybe weren't on the opening day roster or whatever it might be, maybe fringe guys or prospects, who is the 1 or 2 that you think could contribute at the major league level for a full 162 season? So I'll let you dwell on that. Before we do that, though, first ad and only ad of the day. There's only one on a Friday. There we go. And it's a heavy one, guys. We've had this going for the last couple of weeks. It's a heavy one, but it's important, particularly before a weekend. So are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? What's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit? No big deal, right? Wrong. Truth is, your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Heavy ads. Heavy ads, Noah. From heavy ads onto roster construction and studs that can make an impact. For what you've seen, and we've had a good month of a lot of looks at different guys, tons of them. We've kind of talked about them already. Who are the 1 or 2, maybe there's more, that have stood out to you on the hitting side that you think next year, from a roster perspective, opening day, they have a good chance of cracking the roster? We don't know what's going to happen. So much can happen. But let's say they run this roster back. Everyone's back off the injured list. They make 1 or 2 changes. But where's your head at on that one?
I think your catching core is pretty much locked up for next season with Jacob Stallings and Nick Fortes.
They're locked up, no doubt.
I don't see them changing anything there, because they both hit at a respectable clip. Jacob Stallings has picked his hitting back up since the beginning of the season, and their game management is second to none. The way they're handling this pitching staff, the relationships that they've created with the specific pitchers, with Stallings and Sandy, it's been incredible. Nick with guys like Braxton and Edward and Castano, him being able to, his game management, he came into the season really wanting to focus on his defensive play, on how he dealt with the pitchers and how he called the game, because it's a lot different than it is in the minor leagues. And since he came up, you can really see that progression of his confidence behind the plate and his receiving and his framing and his pitch calling. He's gotten a lot more confident, and he's taking more risks back there, which of course leads to some mistakes, but it's good to see that he's getting more comfortable behind the plate. And I think he's someone that you will see very often over the next few seasons behind the plate for the Marlins.
Agreed.
Charles LeBlanc, I need to see more from, but he's been hitting at a respectable clip. He's kind of like the De La Cruz of last season.
Yeah. Good comparison, I'd say. Like, hitting a 300, and you're kind of sitting there thinking, is it real? I guess we need to see more, to your point.
And again, we need to see more from Leday and Burdick, and we need to see more from Lewin. Lewin's defense at first base is Gold Glove caliber, and you can put me on record for that.
Yeah, agreed.
He is just an amazing defender at first base. He's a vacuum. Any ball within his vicinity ends up in his glove some way or another. Not sure how physically he gets it done, but he does. And there's a lot to be said about a first baseman that can turn errors into outs. Like a play that a ball in the like a throw that's on the ground and bounces right in front of the first baseman that a lot of first basemen won't be able to play.
Yeah.
A Gold Glove first baseman will make the play even if it's bounced right in front of him, even if it's a weird hop. They'll make that play and turn errors into outs. And you only get 27 outs. So unless you go to extra innings and then everything goes crazy, but it was something that Perry Hill, when he was the infield coach of the Marlins, would always preach: is 27 outs, no more. You don't want this game going any further. Get your 27 sense. Outs. You can't give a team extra outs, especially when it's a team like the Dodgers or the Mets. You can't give them extra outs.
Agreed. What about the stick, though? Because, it's all well and good having a Gold Glove at first base, and I completely agree with your assessment. However, the Marlins have really struggled to score more than 3 runs on a regular basis, and we need some production. And we have to get production at first base. Really do. And gut feel from what you've seen with Lewin, again, it's a short sample size, really. Like, I don't think he's been managed effectively this year at all, to be honest with you. Actually, within his entire Marlins career, I actually think they've mismanaged Lewin. But time is ticking with no options remaining on him. Where's your head at? Do you think he makes the roster?
I think if he gets consistent play time and a consistent spot in the lineup, his left-handed bat will play. Yeah.
The shift's killing him, I must say, because they've always got this guy out in shallow right field.
I am so absolutely over anything related to the shift. I wanted it gone before it even started, because to me, it takes away the basics of hitting. Like, you're always taught to a ball up the middle is perfect. But now there's a fielder up the middle. Why? Yeah. Go away. Who allowed you to be there? Just putting the ball on the ground into a hole that's no longer a hole.
Yeah, exactly.
It drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah, agreed.
And even more so when the Marlins have a defensive shift on and the ball gets through somehow, and it's just like, Listen,
It's infuriating, right?
I could tip my cap to a hitter if he gets it through a normal infield because that's just their job.
Yeah.
But when you give up an entire left side of the infield and a player lays down a bunt and makes it to first because nobody's over on the third base line, you're giving them outs.
Yeah, going back to your point, just 27 outs. That's what we need. No more.
No, 27 outs, no more.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you on that. The shift has definitely hurt Lewin, but overall the stick is not playing right now. It's been disappointing. He actually was better with the stick last year, made more of an impact last year for certain, and this year it just hasn't really clicked for him yet. There's still
Hitting
time.
is
There's still a full month.
Hitting is contagious, is what I'll say to that.
Oh, and the opposite, not hitting, I think, is contagious because this whole lineup for the whole month hitting under 200 is literally historically bad. So
someone said to me, I was saying to somebody earlier this week that like it really is aggravating how little they're able to push a run across. And the person said back to me, "No, it was aggravating a month ago when they were like 2 games out of the wild card."
Yeah, it doesn't matter now.
2 games under 500. Now it's just annoying. It's not aggravating anymore because now we know what's going to happen. Now we know that bases loaded, nobody out is going to end up with no runs being pushed across because we've seen it before. We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends, and we don't like it. But you get a guy on third base, and you're not able to push that run home. It's deflating. And it just keeps getting deflating and deflating and deflating, and you keep going through that. It can weigh on you, and you try to do too much, and everything suffers because of it.
And that's the point I was making earlier about Hey-Ra, the fact that actually the one guy for me that's really stood up, that's been able to hit in, with runners on more often than not. When I look at the box scores, and listen, I'm not watching as many of the games as I have done. It's hard enough for me to do that generally. But
hard enough
I
for
haven't
me to do that, and I'm there.
Yeah, exactly. But when you look at the box scores and you see what's happening, Encarnacion seems to be the guy that is able to get the big hit, get some RBIs, some batters in, and that was, which is great to see. That's why I'm really intrigued to see what Encarnacion can do, and maybe they need to find a way to increase the versatility. Maybe try him out at first base. I mean, for God's sake, Harold Ramirez was playing at first base for the Rays the other day. He's played 20 games at first base for the Rays. The Rays don't care. If we need to stick, you're going to first base. And Harold's been hitting, so
the Rays have special powers.
They do.
I'm convinced that the reason they're still at Tropicana Field is because underneath Tropicana Field there's some massive supercomputer that uses the field itself as its cooling veins.
Must be.
So there's it's so hard to compare a team to the Rays because the Rays are just in a league of their own when it comes to developing anybody. They had their starting pitcher, their Cy Young candidate, go down right before a game. They pitched a full bullpen game and won handedly.
I know. The Rays, too good.
Terrifying.
Too good, no doubt. But nevertheless, I'd like to see Encarnacion get a chance at first base. There's a lot of decisions to make there, and a lot of decisions that need to be made in general. Like the whole of the infield is on its final year coming into next year. They're all over 30. The team seemed to struggle a little bit this year, lacked a bit of juice, particularly once Jazz went down. And so for me, they need to get a bit younger, a bit, just a bit more juice knocking around there from a lineup perspective. It feels a bit cumbersome, and I don't know what that looks like in the future. Anyway, one final question, because we're almost at the half-hour mark. What's the one thing now? As you're watching these games, you're there most days now. You are basically the Fish Stripes lead reporter, on-field reporter, and that's the role you've taken on, which I've absolutely loved, and also the chief reliever interviewer as well. So, actually, I've got 2 questions. Firstly, which is the reliever that you haven't yet interviewed for your wonderful podcast that you hope to, and I'm sure you'll make it happen? And the second question is, looking into September, what's the one thing that's exciting you about these Marlins? And then we'll finish up.
So I'll answer the second one first.
Okay.
I think what's exciting me is that we've gotten to the point where everyone's on the same page that there's nothing left to play for,
Mm.
and let's just see what we have for next season.
Let's go.
There's a certain comfort to that, not like not having the stress of, oh, we're this much out of the wild card, have to win this game. Okay, if you don't win the game, it's not the end of the world, because you want to see these guys have good at bats. Seeing Nick Fortes hitting balls at 100 miles per hour exit velocity multiple times a game, that's encouraging and something I really love seeing.
Me too.
Yeah, they get caught because there's a fielder right where he hit it at because of this shift and everyone's advanced metrics, but he still crushed the ball.
Yep.
Um,
Agreed.
So I'm excited to see the young guys get their reps, just play baseball, have nothing to lose. And I want to see Sandy make that final push for the Cy Young, even though I'm fully convinced that it's his award to lose.
Agreed. Big game today, by the way. We haven't even spoken about this weekend series. Big game, Sandy going on the road against the Braves. Haven't seen the Braves lineup, but I know Acuna played yesterday. Wonder if Acuna's back in, and that rivalry will be recontinued from the postseason in 2020.
The postseason in 2020. Wow, that was a good time.
That was a fun time.
And on the relievers,
who have you got
before this week, I would have said Jake Fishman.
Okay.
But I finally got Jake
You've ticked it
Fishman.
off. You've done it. You've achieved your goals.
Finally got Jake Fishman. I think at this point, I haven't spoken to Floro, Blyer, Bender, Nance, Sulcer. I haven't spoken to those guys.
I know mine.
I had Bender queued up, but then he went down.
Yeah.
Went down with the injury. And
I know the
Sulcer
one.
Came back up, but I think I want to talk to Floro, because he hit one of the things I love about him is his walk-up song is "For Whom the Bell Tolls" by Metallica, and so like you know how like closer songs are the big in thing now.
It's big, isn't it? It's really booming right now.
A couple of days ago, he came in for the 9th inning, and what whoever was running game like production at that on that day did a really good job of they killed the lights and started playing "For Whom the Bell Tolls." So you get the ding, ding, and then the rock music starts, and he starts coming out with the flashing lights and everything.
There we go.
They did a whole light show, and then as he got to the mound, of course, they announced his name, and it just worked.
Yeah. Did he get the save?
I think he did.
I can't even remember.
I think he did. Yeah, he did. No, that game went to extras.
Okay, so he came in trying to get a shutdown 9th to get it to extras, right? That must have been, maybe that was the situation. I can't remember.
It was against the Dodgers.
Yeah, okay, that was the extras
Monday
game
against the Dodgers.
So just to add on to this, there's definitely one guy that you've listed in there that I certainly still believe in, and I would love to hear from. So I'll leave it at that. And
I will get him on eventually. I have 100%. To talk to him about the World Baseball Classic and all that kind of stuff.
No doubt.
So I will be getting Richard Blyer on very soon. Not sure when, but it will hopefully be soon.
I do still heavily believe in Richard Blyer. I just want to call that out.
So do I.
Absolutely. There's a T-shirt coming, I think, soon on that one. We'll wait and see.
Oh my God.
Okay,
you already got me in enough trouble with T-shirts.
Well, for those that are watching, they can see there's a hashtag Marlins Twitter tee on as well, which is one of the old Marlins UK Teespring store classics, straight out of the Fish Stripes Jeopardy a few weeks back. That was very funny. There was a lot of swearing in that segment, by the way. If those that maybe didn't see that, Eli,
I try so hard to keep it clean on streams and stuff, but the guys make it so impossible.
It's an emotive topic, it is what it is. Noah, for those that aren't watching and have the graphics to help them, where can people find you on Twitter?
So you can find me at TrainBoy100. The story behind that is I've always loved trains. If you can see my background, it's Brightline Trains. So at TrainBoy100, that's been my @ since I had Roblox in 2014. So you can find me there. You can always find my work on Fish Stripes. And
you can see you at the ballpark. You're there most days.
See me at the ballpark. If it's not a Friday night or a Saturday, you'll probably see me there, wearing my Team Israel hat. And if you don't see me, you'll probably see one of the other Fish Stripes guys. And if you're in Philly this week, when the Marlins are in Philly this week, I'll be there covering the team for Fish Stripes. I plan to do a lot more road trips next year.
He does it all.
Yeah,
He does it all.
I will see you out at the ballpark.
Awesome. Okay, well, I will thank Noah for joining me at short notice because
Thank you so much for having me on.
Same. It was sensational. It's your second appearance now, so it's awesome to have you back on. And like I said, it was the perfect guest for the perfect time for the perfect roster move. So I appreciate that. And guys, that's going to wrap us up for Friday, and not just Friday, but for this week. Again, another 5 episodes are in the books. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun doing it. And well, it's a big series against the Braves. I love playing the Braves. There's always extra juice. Sandy Alcantara going in game 1. I'm absolutely pumped to see it. It's on Apple, by all accounts. So you got to actually get onto Apple. So the Bally crew, day off. They'll be absolutely loving it. So let's hope that Sandy can deliver a similar performance to the most recent one against the Dodgers and put a exclamation point on another exclamation point from the last time around in this Cy Young race. But guys, I will be back, of course, on Monday with another 5 episodes. In the meantime, enjoy your weekends and go Marlins.